And this is the news that we're tracking at this hour. The Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria has increased the monetary policy rate, which sets the benchmark for interest rates from 26.75% to 27.25%, surpassing analysts and economists' expectations. CBN Governor Olayemi Cardoso announced the 50 basis point hike during a press conference on Tuesday, following the committee's 297th meeting in Abuja. New Central's business correspondent Perpetua Fasomipita interviewed analysts to gather their perspectives on the decision.
Raise the MPR by 50 basis points to 27.25%.
This announcement was a shock to many analysts and economists.
I think, what the market was expecting was a flat, change in the policy rate. But this that has happened is a surprise, to the market.
Continuing to raise hike rates, it's got to stop, because whilst you are doing that, first, you are not reducing money supply. And secondly, like you said, we are affecting businesses. Cost of borrowing is going to go up regardless of what you do. As soon as you hike rates, cost of borrowing will go up.
Though the rate hike may pose challenges for local businesses and production, it can also attract foreign investors seeking higher yields, especially as central banks in the US and UK ease policies.
You will find that Nigeria is now a more compelling market for those investments coming from abroad to look for higher yield on investment instruments. And that, to my mind, should support the stability and possibly the appreciation of our exchange rate. When a country understands how to make the best use of foreign portfolio investments, you can sustain those investments over a medium to long term in your economy, and they continue to help you to stabilize your currency.
Analysts unanimously argue that addressing Nigeria's inflation crisis requires a more structural approach beyond simply cutting interest rates.
Where hopefully, if we get it right with the introduction of Dangote into the picture with regards to refined petroleum products, we should see a significant reduction in the demand pressures on the dollar. So this is completely outside of the NPR thing and all of that. This is just something that we're talking about, the exchange rate, and if we get that right, then we should see a reduction in inflation.
Well, I think two numbers come to mind for me when we talk about exchange rates. Number one is $7.3 billion. That is the amount that government officials have said that Nigeria will be able to save when we sell our crude oil in Naira to local refiners. A more compelling number for us to save on an annual basis going forward looks to me like that $20 billion, assuming that we can completely eliminate all form of oil-related importation. I think that would be more instructive and more supportive of our FX rate stability going forward.
The 297th meeting of the MPC also saw the committee hike MPR by 50 basis points to 27.25%, retain the asymmetric corridor around the MPR at plus 500 to minus 100, raise the cash reserve ratio of deposit money banks to 50% and that of merchant banks by 200 basis points to 16%. However, it retained the liquidity ratio at 30%. In Lagos, for News Central, I am Perpetua Fasomipita.
Now I'll tell you that President Bola Tinubu has withheld assent to a bill proposing to extend the service tenure of legislative officers at the National Assembly and the 36 states houses of assembly. The bill sought to increase the tenure from 35 to 40 years and raise the retirement age from 60 to 65 years. The president's decision was conveyed in a letter read today by Senate President Godswill Akpabio during the Senate's session. This harmonized and controversial retirement age bill had earlier been shelved in February 2024 for further consultation, following significant opposition from lawmakers. First introduced in the 7th Assembly, the bill also stalled in the 9th Assembly before being reintroduced in the 10th Senate. In the meantime, President Bola Tinubu has submitted an additional supplementary budget proposal for the Federal Capital Territory Administration for consideration and passage to the House of Representatives. The proposal was read by the Speaker of the House at the resumption of plenary after a 2-month annual recess embarked upon by lawmakers. President Tinubu says that an additional proposal is being prepared on the reviewed revenue and expenditure forecasts of the Federal Capital Territory Administration, which aligns with the fiscal and developmental policies of the federal government and will help the FCTA to prioritize and improve human development within the capital.
I write in accordance with the provisions of Section 121 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to forward herewith an additional supplementary budget proposal for the FCT for consideration and passage by the House of Representatives. This supplementary budget proposal has been prepared on the basis of the FCT's reviewed revenue and expenditure forecast. While I trust that the House of Representatives will, in their usual expeditious manner, consider and approve the 2024 supplementary budget proposal of the FCTA, please accept, Right Honorable Speaker, the assurances of my highest considerations and regards. Yours sincerely, signed, Bola.
Let's now tell you that President Bola Tinubu has formally requested the Senate's confirmation of Justice Kudirat Kekereekun as the Chief Justice of Nigeria. The letter addressed to the Senate was read by Senate President Godswill Akpabio during Tuesday's plenary. In the letter, Tinubu invoked Section 231, subsection 1 of the Nigerian Constitution, which grants him the authority to appoint the CJN upon the recommendation of the National Judicial Council, subject to Senate approval. He expressed strong confidence in Justice Kekereekun's nomination and urged the Senate to expedite the confirmation process. The NJC had in August recommended Justice Kekereekun to the President as the successor to former CJN Justice Olukayode Ariwola.
I am pleased to forward for confirmation by the Senate the appointment of 21 underlisted nominees as commissioners to fill the existing vacancies of their respective states in the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Ms. Linda Nkechi-Oti for Abia State, Mr. Akpanimo Effiong for Akwa Ibom, Enefe Ekene for Anambra, Professor Steve Uba for Benue, Chief Eyonsa Willie Cross River, Oruviere Egawe for Delta, Ndoka Henry Auregu for Ebonyi, Victor Eboigbe for Edo, Wumi Ogunola for Aikiti, Ozo Obureme Obodogu for Enugu.
We now tell you that Senator representing Abia North, Orji Uzo Kalu, has called on President Bola Tinubu to take urgent and decisive actions to alleviate the growing economic hardship Nigerians are facing. Speaking to journalists on Tuesday at the National Assembly's resumption in Abuja, Senator Kalu acknowledged the steps already being taken by the president, but emphasized that more needs to be done to ease the burden on citizens. Responding to questions about the pressure within the ruling party to reinstate fuel subsidies, the senator expressed his support for any decision that would help reduce the economic strain on Nigerians.
Never happened in the last 60 years. No president, as I'm telling you, had the courage to do what President Tinubu is doing now. It's about courage. The man is very courageous in terms of courage. Possibly, if I'm president, what he's doing now to reform the economy, taking everything together, I might not do it. I might come slowly, but the man is very courageous, very, very courageous. So it goes with hardship. So people, I know, even in my village, in everywhere I go, the companies, everybody, there's hardship. But I appeal to federal government, I appeal to the president to know how he can bring succor quickly to people of Nigeria. He has to do something, not yesterday, today, not tomorrow, today. He must do something like yesterday, because the condition of Nigerian people is not too good. And I believe no president will want his people to suffer. No president in the world elected by people will want those people to suffer. So I believe him and his team, we are here, we are making laws. You people think we are the one holding government. We are not the one holding government. We are just, there are three arms of government, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. We are here making laws. We don't do any other thing than make laws. And it's that lawmaking that we live. So it is not totally out of place, but Nigeria will come out stronger.
Still in the Red Chamber, Nigerian Senate has adjourned its plenary in honor of the late Senator Ifeanyi Ubah, who passed away during the National Assembly's annual recess. The Red Chamber reconvened on Tuesday following the break that began in late July. During the session, Senate President Godswill Akpabio read several correspondences from President Bola Tinubu. Following these formalities, the lawmakers paid tribute to the late Ubah by observing a moment of silence in his memory. Senator Ifeanyi Ubah, who passed away in late July 2024 at the age of 52, represented the Anambra South Senatorial District and served as the chairman of the Senate Committee on Petroleum Resources Downstream.
We remain resolute in our commitment to ensuring the development of our great nation. Very unfortunately, in the course of the break, this sad news of a very vibrant, distinguished colleague, a man who exuded so much candor, distinguished Senator Ifeanyi Ubah, was broken. A monumental loss to this National Assembly, the Senate in particular, his family, the good people of Anambra State, and Nigeria as a whole. We therefore extend our heartfelt condolences to his family, his constituents, Anambra State, and indeed our dear nation. At the appropriate time, we'll do justice to his legacies by devoting more time in chambers to discuss the times and life of the distinguished senator.
You're watching News Central now. We go on a break. When we return, Justice Binta Nyako recuses herself from hearing. We'll tell you more and other stories in a bit. Many thanks for staying with us. We'll tell you that Justice Binta Nyako of the Federal High Court in Abuja has recused herself from the trial of detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra over charges bordering on treasonable felony. This followed the demand by the IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu after he went on a tirade in court insisting the trial judge should recuse herself from the trial. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
Between the accused, the defense counsel, and the trial judge. The point of contention here is that the proscribed IPOB leader says that he is not convinced that the court presided over by Justice Binta Nyako has the jurisdiction to try him, having been vindicated by the Supreme Court, which had earlier ruled that he should be tried in London, where he committed the alleged crime.
It says all these things are online. Is it not page 18? All these things are online. So I suggest that the journalists in this country actually take out time to do some basic research. It's not difficult, just minor research. You will understand the vacuousness, the emptiness of all the charges against me. Okay. They kept switching the charges. Yes. They said I committed this crime in England, isn't it? Yes.
Justice Nyako, who couldn't stand the protest scene created by the IPOB leader, announced her withdrawal from the trial.
The court did make some order, and the consequences of that order would have resulted in getting him adequately prepared. But most of those orders were disobeyed in their material particulars. For instance, we were not provided a clean room where no one will have listening devices to listen to our conversations.
The IPOB leader continued his agitations without mincing words, exonerating the IPOB group, saying it is not responsible for the fragile peace in the southern eastern part of the country.
Because of Biafra, or trying to use my name to gain relevance. I don't want it. I don't want any killings, no kidnapping. All this nonsense are alien to us as a people. I don't know where these animals came from. They are taking advantage of the fact that I'm in detention. But it will soon end. It will soon end. On IPOB, trying to use the name of IPOB, trying to subvert the will of the people, our principles and our core values. That person has a lot to contend with when the time comes. You can run, but you can never hide. You can run and hide and be talking all manner of rubbish, but one day we'll catch up with you.
For now, Kanu has been taken back to detention and his case file handed back to the chief judge. In Abuja, for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court in Abuja dismissed two separate motions on Tuesday filed by the Edo State Government and the State House of Assembly seeking to overturn the reinstatement of Philip Shaibu as Deputy Governor of the state. The court also awarded a total cost of 400,000 naira against the Edo State Government and the State Assembly. Justice Omotosho awarded the costs on the State Attorney General and the State Assembly in favor of Shaibu after the counsel for the State Attorney General Marvin Omorogbe and the House of Assembly Sonia Edonia expressed their intention to withdraw the motions for a stay of execution. Away from judicial matters to the petroleum sector, the President and Chief Executive of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, has urged the federal government to end fuel subsidies completely. Speaking in a 26-minute interview with Bloomberg Television in New York, he said the time is right to end subsidies which have gulped trillions of naira from the country's coffers. According to him, the removal would assist in determining the country's actual consumption. His advice follows the recent commencement of petrol lifting from the Dangote refinery and price increments to 950 naira per litre in Lagos State and its environs, and above 1,000 naira in the north. He stated that fuel production from his refinery will help ease pressures on the naira and also confirmed ownership of 2 oil blocks in the upstream sector with an expected production date of next month. Meanwhile, Nigeria's federal government says that it has concluded plans to convert locomotive engines to run on compressed natural gas. This was made known by the Minister of Transportation during an inspection ride to ascertain the readiness and efficiency of the converted locomotives, saying that the federal government hopes to save over 60% of the operation costs of rail transportation from the retrofitting process of the locomotive engines. He also adds that the new initiative will potentially decrease the cost of train fares.
After retrofitting the locomotives, we are now going to engage the SADEL to bring wagons. We are going to use wagons for freight in all the segments that we operate. That will further bring down the cost of goods and services because the transportation cost has been reduced. We are operating Lagos Ibadan already. We are operating Abuja, Kaduna, Warri, Itape, Port Harcourt to Aba. President Bola Tinubu GCFR has engaged the President of China, President Xi Jinping, for the financing of all our projects under railway modernization.
Nigeria has enough resources of gas. With this retrofitting, as the Honorable Minister says earlier, the cost of transportation will drop by 70%. Technology is European technology. Our technical partner, the Fuel Fusion, is Poland technical company. Then it's 30% international and 70% indigenous.
We go on another break on the news. When we return, new minimum wage, Abia State government to begin implementation in October. Do stay with us. Minutes ago, we brought you live feeds of the Vice President of Nigeria, Kashim Shettima, addressing participants and the Assembly, that is the United Nations General Assembly, the 79th session ongoing in New York, United States. And it talked about several initiatives of the current administration of President Bola Tinubu in actually dealing with the perennial issues, the socio-economic challenges affecting the country, using the opportunity to call for global concerted efforts to deal with the issues around climate change and addressing the bottlenecks around the SDG goals, with a need to ameliorating the plight of the people on the African continent and the global community, while also bringing about solutions to the socio-economic challenges also affecting people in other regions. And now we have our correspondent, Bernard Akede, who has been on this particular session, the UNGA, that 79th session in the United States, and he will be giving us the updates, or basically taking his reaction as regards the address by the Vice President of Nigeria. Bernard, it's a pleasure having you around. I'd like to get details from you on how you feel or what the body language in response to the address given by Kashim Shettima, the Vice President of Nigeria.
All right, thank you for having me, Lekan. To be honest, well, the body language was expected, if you ask me. What the Vice President Kashim Shettima said is nothing far from what I expected him to say. He highlighted some of the issues, most of the issues that Nigeria has been experiencing in the past few years. He talked about climate change, talked about global warming. He talked about AI, the scares and the fears that people are having with the artificial intelligence. He talked about the flooding that we recently experienced in Maiduguri. He talked about the insecurity in the Sahel and how it's affected Nigeria. But after talking about, besides talking about all the ills that the country is facing, he also talked about, the advantages that a country like Nigeria can bring to the table, joining other African leaders who spoke today, saying that it is time for African countries and developing countries to have a seat, a permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council. He basically explained that Nigeria is big enough. Nigeria has the economy now. Nigeria is the go-to country, and not just Nigeria, Africa is the go-to continent. He mentioned the population age of the African continent and how the youthful population of the continent can be an advantage, not just to Africans, but to the rest of the world. They used to say space is the new frontier. Now it is Africa. Every investor, everybody is coming down this way. And these are some of the things that the Vice President, His Excellency Kashim Shettima, did highlight. Interestingly, I would like to note that on his way out, after giving that, that long and interesting speech, we were able to catch up with him, and he obliged us just one question very quickly. I asked him that almost every African leader who has spoken today has clamored for Africa or African countries to get a seat, a permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council. And I asked him, I said, do you think now is the time? Everybody has asked for it. Do you think now is the time, and why? And he said, yes. Now is the time. He answered that question in just 3 points. He said, now is the time because we have the numbers, we have the economy, and we have the future. Africa is the future. That's all he said.
Well, amidst the clamor for a permanent seat in the Security Council of the UN, there are still issues affecting the country. We're talking about poverty, unemployment rates that's still on the high side, and insecurity. And I'm wondering in his address if he actually sounded convincing to the Assembly while he spoke to them, demanding for this. I don't know what your take is.
Well, my take on this is, yes, he did mention all these things. He mentioned insecurity, he mentioned, poverty, he mentioned issues with the economy. And remember that he also did say that, it's expected that the international community should still rally around to support African countries that are lagging behind in these particular places. To me, in the early hours of today, when I had conversations with Felicity and other anchors on our station this morning, I did say that it's about time that African countries began to source solutions to African problems. We've heard several notable speakers and African leaders say that, and even on our station, we've heard contributors say that the solution to Africa's problems lies in Africa by Africans. I was saying that I would hope that African leaders will not come back to the UN General Assembly again this year cap in hand, seeking for debt relief, seeking for debt pardon, seeking for more aid from the Western world and from foreign countries. Now, he didn't categorically say that we should get more support, more supplies, more aid, but he did say that the developed countries should support in maybe not using the same terms, but he actually did say that they should not overlook the developing countries, that we still in one way or the other need support, we still need some hand-holding. But in all of that, I strongly still believe, and I stand by my words, it's about time for Africa to take charge of African issues. And if Africa does want a permanent seat at the Security Council, then we have to be seeking permanent solutions to our own problems as well.
All right, thank you very much, Bernard Akede, for giving us the updates. And of course, a wonderful job, I must say, that you have been doing so far all day, bringing us up to speed with situations happening right there at the United Nations General Assembly session, the 79th series. And we also wish you all the best, all right? And enjoy yourself while you do that.
I'll try to do that. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Moving on now, the 79th United Nations General Assembly convened in New York gathered world leaders together to confront urgent global issues. Notable speeches from the presidents of the United States, South Africa, Brazil, and Turkey underscore the critical need for international collaboration and sustainable solutions. News Central's Chidema Ona reports.
At the 79th UN General Assembly, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa addressed the exclusion of Africa from key decision-making structure in the UN Security Council, calling for reform. Ramaphosa also highlighted South Africa's commitment to peace, security, and human rights.
Achieving and maintaining peace and security requires the collective will of the community of nations gathered here. 78 years since its formation, the structure of the United Nations Security Council remains largely unchanged. Africa and its 1.4 billion people remain excluded from its key decision-making structure. This cannot continue. The UN Security Council must be reformed as a matter of agency.
In his final address to the UN General Assembly as U.S. President, Joe Biden emphasized the urgent need for humanitarian assistance in war-torn regions. He called for renewed global partnerships, urging nations to collaborate in tackling climate change and addressing global inequality.
Our test is to make sure that the forces holding us together are stronger than those who are pulling us apart. That the principles of partnership that we came here each year to uphold can withstand the challenges. That the center holds once again. My fellow leaders, I truly believe we're at another inflection point in world history. But the choices we make today will determine our future for decades to come. Will we stand behind the principles that unite us? Will we stand firm against aggression? Will we end the conflicts that are raging today? We take on global challenges like climate change, hunger, and disease.
Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Brazil's President Inácio Lula da Silva delivered impassioned speeches on the ongoing humanitarian crisis, stressing the importance of diplomacy in conflict resolution. They called on the international community to collaborate on finding solutions to the world's most pressing challenges.
We are living in a time of growing anguish, frustration, tension, and fear. We are witnessing an alarming escalation of geopolitical disputes and strategic rivalries. 2023 holds the sad record of the highest number of conflicts since World War II. Over $90 billion have been mobilized with nuclear arsenals. These resources could have been used to finance the fight against hunger and climate change.
Our problem is with the oppressor and the oppression, just as it was 5 centuries ago. Everybody should know about this. We will always speak of the truth and speak of what's right and what's fair.
The discussions at the UNGA 79 highlighted a growing consensus among world leaders on the interconnectedness of today's challenges and the need for a cooperative action. As the Assembly continues, The focus remains on dialogue and the urgent call for a unified response to the global crisis we face. In Lagos for News Central, Chidimma Ona.
In the meantime, President of Sierra Leone, Julius Maada Bio, also had his time at the Assembly, where he pushed for Africa to be given permanent membership in the UN Security Council.
I've called for meaningful dialogue and led by example by visiting the head of state of Burkina Faso before Sierra Leone assumed the presidency of the United Nations Security Council in August 2024. We need to build bridges, and this requires the international community's commitment to working with the regions to implement dialogue-based, region-led, and region-owned solutions.
We are now back in Nigeria, and we tell you that there are indications that the Abia State government will commence the payment of the new minimum wage in October. Commissioner for Information, Okekano, made this known during a press briefing on the resolutions of the State Executive Council. This long-awaited news has been welcomed by workers across the state. News Central's Chinwe Ogele has more.
25, 2024, the federal government and organized labor reached an agreement on a new minimum wage of 70,000 naira. However, 2 months after the pronouncement, the implementation of the wage structure remains pending across most states in the country. The announcement by the Commissioner for Information, Okekano, setting a date for the commencement of payments in Abia has been met with cautious optimism by workers.
Bearing any unforeseen circumstances, Abia State government will commence the payment of minimum wage to its workers from the month of October. This, in part, is to underscore the government's commitment to the welfare of Abia workers and a fulfillment of the promise of His Excellency.
For the civil servants in Abia State, it is all about fulfillment of the promise made by the governor himself on the Workers' Day.
I'm pleased to inform you that we shall take the lead in implementation as soon as a new national wage is agreed. Once we are through, we will not only implement it, but we will also backdate it and pay you arrears.
However, the commissioner was unable to confirm whether the governor will pay arrears, leaving workers uncertain about what to expect by the end of October.
Well, quite unfortunately, till date, we as civil servants have not seen anything until this month that we heard that he said that he's going to pay the 70,000 minimum wage.
The lack of clarity has left many in suspense, but workers remain optimistic that the government will not only meet but exceed expectations.
Expect the same 70,000 naira from the federal government's approval, and I know he may even add more. He may even add more than that, because seeing that young man as a governor, he liked doing something above or doing something different from what others have been.
I believe if they even give the 70 that they promised, it will be a big relief. Anything less than that is still it amounts to not helping the masses.
When contacted for comments, the Abia State chairman of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Omonayo Okoro, said he was attending a national-level meeting in Bauchi on the modalities for the payment of the minimum wage and was unavailable for an interview at the time.
Expectedly, everyone who works as a civil servant in Abia State Civil Service will receive what is due to him or her in due course. In Omahia for News Central, Chinwe Ugele.
We tell you that the federal government has released 10 billion naira for the enhancement of facilities at the newly upgraded Federal University of Education, Pangshin, in Plateau State. A director from the Federal College of Education, Uche Uba, led a 7-man ministerial assessment team from the Federal Ministry of Education, the National Universities Commission, and the National Commission for Colleges of Education to oversee the mission. News Central's Onabanjo has the details.
The Federal University of Education, Pangshin, formerly known as the Federal College of Education, was established in 1974 in Pangshin local government area of Plateau State. It was founded to train students as prospective teachers with strong leadership qualities. This recent upgrade follows a motion sponsored by Yusuf Gagdi, representing the Pangshin Kanke Kanam Federal Constituency.
I want to assure you that the governor and the government of Plateau State will give the college all the necessary support and backing to ensure that it succeeds. It's not time for politics, and we shouldn't be politicizing every issue.
Federal College of Education Pangshin to Federal University of Education Pangshin means empowerment, means development, means progress, means educational attainment, means a lot to the people and means a lot to me, because it comes with a lot of dividend. It comes with a lot of goodwills in times of infrastructural expansion, in times of creating job opportunities and employment to citizens and people living within the catchment area.
We are here to conduct a comprehensive assessment of the existing facilities and take a detailed inventory of what they have already.
The upgrade is aimed at improving the standard of education and expanding the course offerings at the institution, a move that beneficiaries say is a welcome development.
On behalf of the student, that we are happy to the extreme, and we cannot even express our happiness with the actualization of this university. It was actually it is a dream come true.
Pangshin is blessed, the college is blessed, and we are blessed too, and we are happy to have a new university.
As the assessment of the facility by the 7-man ministerial assessment team continues, it is hoped that the objectives of this upgrade will be fully realized. From Pangshin local government area of Plateau State, Chizoba Anyonwe reporting for News Central.
And that's all on the news at this hour. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. Well, you can watch us live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekan Onabanjo.